Education Station, 1370 WOCA.
WOCA.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. It is October 22nd, 2014. October 22nd, 2014. The date is important because if that's the date on your calendar right now, then you're listening to a live broadcast, and John Fuller is in the studio to answer your legal questions. John is an attorney here in Ocala at the law firm of Fuller and Fuller. The other Fuller is his beautiful wife, Janet, who we don't see very much anymore. But John mentions her specialties, and you might benefit from seeing her as well as John. And the number right now to call in to ask John a question is 622-9622. Good morning, John. How you doing?
Good morning, Larry. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Pretty good.
I hope all our listeners are doing well and enjoying some of our fall weather,
a little
at least
cooler,
the Florida version of a little cooler weather. And that's always a blessing. There goes a good friend of ours into the mall. So when people see us waving, they should know that your studio has a picture window to the entrance of the mall.
Sure does.
And you get to keep say hello to all of your friends as they come and go.
That's
so
right.
That's a nice feature. Thanks to all our listeners. I'm sorry I wasn't here. I've had some traveling that we've been doing for work and some personal things with family weddings in Texas. So I was not here last week, but it's good to be back. I hope some of our listeners will have some questions. What we like to do in this show is to talk about issues in general terms. If you have a legal question, we try to give you the best general direction and response. We practice law at the law firm of Fuller and Fuller. My wife and partner, Janet Fuller, does handle exclusively Social Security disability cases, and she works with me in my personal injury cases because before Janet went to law school, she was a registered nurse working at Shands Teaching Hospital in Gainesville for 7 years. So that gives her a unique background in medical issues and medical terminology. Mm-hmm. So when we have someone who's been seriously hurt in an automobile accident or some other type of accident, she's very helpful in that. But she has, her practice is almost exclusively representing people who have applied for Social Security disability and been denied. I'm board certified in civil trial law and in business and commercial litigation, both by the Florida Bar and by the National Board of Trial Advocates. And so I try civil cases primarily now, dealing with serious accident or injury cases, wrongful death, business, commercial disputes, that sort of thing. We handle some on a limited basis and specialized basis, complex major family law cases because they often involve complex business issues. So those are the areas that we focus our practice in and I specialize in. And if people have a case where they or a family member or a friend or a loved one are unfortunately find themselves having been hurt in an automobile accident and they want to talk with us, they can call us. Our office number is 352-547-4292. We have an 800 number, 855-534-2565, and we're happy to set you an appointment where we can talk about your case in detail. This show is to talk in general terms. We hope it is somewhat of a public service in that we get to talk about the system a lot of times. And that if someone understands the system a little better, then it's not so intimidating if they ever find themselves as a potential litigant in the system.
I have a question that might be in the lines of what your wife does. When you mentioned that some people get turned down when they apply for Social Security disability, and then they come to your wife to have some legal help on that regard, do the people that you take to court play hardball, or do they say, okay, he's got a lawyer, and they So they soften up and suddenly...
No, I don't think it's a matter of them softening up. And truly, we're going to have Janet do a show on Social Security. I think that would be helpful. We did that about a year ago.
Yeah.
She sees a lot of clients at our office in the villages on Wednesday.
Oh,
and that
right,
just happens to coincide
Right, with the radio show.
the way she has worked her schedule. Wednesday oftentimes is her day in the villages. She has other days when she needs to, but she tries to see everyone from that area on a Wednesday. I will tell you what little I know about Social Security with a major disclaimer that she is someone who is very knowledgeable and has spent years doing nothing but that in her practice, and I know very general principles. When a person applies, it's been my observation, and I don't do these cases, that the majority of people at the administrative level are most often denied. And that's really when they need to talk with a lawyer. You can talk with a lawyer before, and the lawyer will help apply for you.
Right.
But a lot of people don't, because if you go online and you fill out the paperwork, and I have observed that a large percentage of those get denied at the staff level for whatever reason, and I'm not qualified to opine on that. But then there is the procedure where you have the right to have that staff level decision denying you Social Security disability benefits. And people need to know we're talking about being disabled from work. We're not talking about what your retirement Social Security is. That's a completely different area of Social Security law. What Janet deals with is people who are unable to work. They've been out of work. They cannot physically do a job, any job, and Social Security is kind of their remedy of last resort. So she then files a claim, and it goes before a hearing examiner, who is essentially a judge. And the judge then reviews all the medical records, has a hearing. The judge and the Social Security system will oftentimes bring a vocational person to testify, and inevitably the vocational person hired by Social Security will testify that person is not 100% disabled. They're able to do something.
Oh, really?
And that's a whole art form of how you cross-examine them. And Janet is much more knowledgeable about that than I am. But the judge then listens to the evidence that you present on behalf of the injured party, the claimant.
Right.
They then review all of the medical records with a trial brief that Janet prepares that goes along and discusses the medical records, the medical limitations, and how those limitations fit into the Social Security descriptions of what a person can or can't do. And if the vocational expert, actually vocational trial testifier, says you can lift 10 pounds, therefore you can do sedentary work. But if the medical records also show that you suffer from chronic pain, and secondary to the chronic pain, you suffer from depression, and that impairs your ability to focus and concentrate, well, then that's an argument that you are not qualified to do sedentary work because of those things, even though there's something in the medical records that says you can pick up 10 pounds, So those are the types of things that are argued, and then the hearing examiner renders an opinion. He either grants the benefits or he denies the benefits. Janet's fee is based upon winning the case.
That was my next question.
If she wins the case, then Social Security is obligated to pay her attorney's fees according to a certain schedule. And based upon the amount of back benefits that you get, because if he rules, he or she, the judge,
It's retroactive?
rules that the claimant is entitled to it, then it goes back to an onset date of when they became disabled.
Oh, wow.
And you get a lump sum check, the claimant does, for that,
Wow.
plus the amount. And then they pay Janet, and the claimant, if Janet doesn't win,
Wow.
she does not get paid. So if she screens these cases very carefully, so that
So she knows in advance that it's a good case.
She's looking, well, there's never, no one's ever blessed with a crystal ball,
Yeah,
and no
yeah.
one in any field of law can give you a prediction of what a judge will do.
Yeah.
And certainly, no lawyer, like any other professional, can or should give a client a guarantee. But that's my understanding of the way it works. Folks that are listening, I want you to know that's the Reader's Digest, the Cliff Notes version of it,
right.
because I don't handle those type of cases or practice in that area of the law. Janet Fuller does that for our law firm. If you think you have a Social Security disability claim, by all means, feel free to give our office a call, and she'll be glad to talk with you. And if you do have a claim, set an appointment and see if she can help.
Let me invite the listeners to call and make sure that you know what date it is, so that you know if you're listening to a live show. It is Wednesday, October 22nd, 2014. If you're listening on that date, then you're listening to a live show, and John Fuller is here to answer your legal questions. The number to call is area code 352-622-9622. And of course, it is going to be a generic type of an answer, but the details are always available just by visiting John at his office.
Right. To get really meaningful legal advice, you need to go and consult with and retain the services of a lawyer who can then get all of the facts and research the applicable law and formulate a meaningful opinion and course of action.
So a question came up yesterday regarding that tragic story of the man who shot his girlfriend and her mother, and then left on a motorcycle. And the news came out that the woman that was his girlfriend, had gone in for a restraining order, I guess that morning, the morning of the shooting. The question came up, can the family sue somebody because the restraining order was denied?
Well, that's, I read in the paper this morning, and all I know is what I've read in the paper,
Yeah.
but the clerk's office issued a press release yesterday afternoon that clarified that, because whoever reported that the petition for injunction against domestic violence was denied, according to the press release, which was in this morning's paper, is totally wrong.
Oh, okay.
The woman allegedly, according to the reports, and I'm just saying what I read in the media, went to the clerk's office. And the clerk's office have very, very compassionate, helpful, well-trained employees who work in domestic violence division, and they have fill-in-the-blank forms, and those folks do a tremendous job helping someone who is a victim of domestic violence to fill out the paperwork. The individual must fill out the paperwork and sign it under oath as a verified petition for an ex parte or emergency injunction against domestic violence. The press release by the clerk, contrary to what had been previously reported in some venues, and I don't know where, the woman went to the clerk's office. The woman went to the clerk's office, met with the clerk, filled out the appropriate petition, and then declined to sign it and file it.
Oh.
So it never went to a judge. So none of our judges should be held up to criticism. The clerk's office should not be held up to criticism. She elected, once she filled out all the paperwork, she took the paperwork with her and left. So it wasn't filed. It didn't go to a judge. There was not a determination that it was denied. The system didn't fail. The people in the system didn't fail. That lady apparently, for whatever reason, made a decision after she got to the courthouse and filled out the paperwork that she didn't want to file it. And she took the paperwork with her, and it was never filed. So it never got into the system. And however it got reported,
I'm glad you're telling us.
well, I think it's important to clarify that, and the clerk certainly did, because I am told, I have not seen it, that there was a lot of rank speculation and comments of what an awful thing that the clerk's office and somehow the judges denied this poor lady an injunction, and shortly thereafter she was tragically killed. There was no injunction applied for. Once you fill out the paperwork, you have to file it with the court. And there is no filing fee for domestic violence. The typical fee for filing a lawsuit is waived in those cases. And it is immediately taken by the clerk to the duty judge. There is a duty judge on duty 24/7 in our county to handle these things. It is immediately taken to the duty judge. If it meets the legal requirements of the statute and has the appropriate factual allegations under oath signed by the person and filed with the court, taken to the judge then automatically enters an injunction without a hearing, and that injunction is good for up to 10 days, and he sets it for an evidentiary hearing where both parties then come before the court within 10 days and put on evidence, and he determines whether or not to continue the temporary ex parte injunction or to continue it as a permanent injunction after an evidentiary hearing.
Wow, I didn't know any of that, John. Thank you for helping us understand that. You do have a phone call. Let's go to the phone. And by the way, everybody's invited to call John. The number is 622-9622, and we are live on October 22nd, just so you know the date. Good morning. You're on the air with John Fuller.
Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Hey, good morning. How you doing today?
In regards to a tenant that harasses you, can you get an injunction or something from that particular tenant if they are delinquent in their rent, and then if you contact them, they harass you and threaten you? Is there any kind of relief other than having to wait through the eviction process to keep that tenant from harassing you? I'll hang up and listen to you.
Well, I don't consider myself to be on the, someone who does a lot of landlord-tenant eviction, but generally the statute for evicting a tenant is Chapter 83 of the Florida statutes, and it says that you can use a summary procedure to advance an eviction process on the court's calendar so you don't have a long period of time to wait. It also says that if a tenant wrongfully holds over and won't surrender possession and doesn't pay rent, that you're entitled to a judgment of double the amount of your rent for the period of time that the tenant has held over after your notice of eviction. So you have pretty good tools to evict the tenant, and that should be the first thing to be considered. You can't get an injunction against somebody to make them pay their rent. You get a judgment against them, and you get possession of the dwelling unit, and you get them out. And there's a procedure to do that, and the courts and the legislature have made that procedure streamlined so that you can do it in a quicker fashion than ordinary litigation. If someone is stalking you or threatening you, who is not a family member who lives in your home, you do have statutes that provide for injunction against stalking, whether it's following you around or whether it's cyber stalking by sending you threatening emails or things on social media or what have you. And you can go and get injunctions for that kind of stalking if you have evidence that supports a reasonable belief that you are in imminent danger or your safety is at stake.
And John, you have another phone call. Good morning. Thank you for waiting. You're on there with John Fuller.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah. Is it possible in the state of Florida to get a common law jury trial?
Wow. You know, you got me on that. I've never heard the term common law jury trial.
Well,
we have a right. We have a right to trial by jury in Florida on most controversies, not exclusively all controversies. You don't have a right to a jury trial in a divorce case, for example. We are a common law state. Our general laws are derived from the British common law, and if the legislature passes a statute that is contrary to the general common law principles, it is to be strictly construed by the court system. I've never heard someone use the term, as you did, that I want a common law jury trial. You're entitled to a jury trial as long as you properly request it at the time you file your first pleading with the court, if it is a matter that is triable by a jury.
Okay. Now, some people say that the presence of a gold-fringed flag in the courtroom is indicative or is proof that the court is somehow an admiralty court. The old flag with no gold fringe around it is not present in the court. Why is that?
I have no idea. I don't have any belief that that has any significance or effect upon our judicial system, and I guess you can talk to anybody and they can say anything they want to about anything, but what kind of flag is displayed or not displayed in the courtroom has no determination over the scope and course of the jurisdiction of that particular court.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for calling.
No, I never heard that one either.
No, that's a new one on me. So I just can't help the gentleman.
I gotta look and see what kind of flag I have in my office.
I've never heard that said in 41, almost 42 years of practicing law. I've never heard that said before.
Do you have, do people make requests? Like when you have a jury trial, that people just request something? I didn't mean to ask a question when you have a caller coming in, but you do have a caller.
Okay.
Let's take that call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, good morning.
Yes. I'm calling to ask what you could do if you have been to court and the attorneys have presented fraudulent information to the court.
If the court has entered a judgment
Against me.
that is procured by evidence that you can prove is fraudulent testimony,
Yes.
then you have a right to a motion for a new trial. And you need to go talk to a lawyer, because I'm not going to get into the hyper-technical details of how you do that and what rule of procedure you do it under. It varies under family law rules versus rules of civil procedure. Obviously, hopefully, if you went to trial and had a lawyer, you already have a...
No lawyer would represent me because they said conflict of interest.
Well, there's 90,000 lawyers in the state of Florida, and I assure you that not all 90,000 of them would have a conflict of interest, and you might not have been able to easily find one in this community, but 35 miles up the road is Gainesville, 30 miles down the road is Leesburg, the Villages. There's a large number of very competent lawyers within a 35-mile radius, and I'm I'm sure. And let me just tell you this. There is an attorney referral service that is run free of charge by the Florida Bar. And if you are looking for a lawyer to handle a particular type case in a particular geographical area, you may call 1-800-342-8011. That is the Florida Bar Attorney Referral Service, and they will give you the names of 3 lawyers in the geographical area where you live who specialize or handle the type of legal issue that you are confronted with. So I suggest you call them.
I've already called them, and they've given me multiple names, and they all say conflict of interest.
Then I would look for a close geographical area different than here in Ocala. I would look to Gainesville. You may even need to go to Orlando, but they're just too many lawyers that are available, too many competent lawyers that you can't find a lawyer who doesn't have a conflict of interest.
So would the referral service handle that?
Yeah, you can call them back and say, listen, all the names you've given me have conflicts. I need for you to give me the name of 3 lawyers in Gainesville. Good luck.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. And what we'll do is, can you leave us that number? We'll put it on Facebook so people can.
Yes, I can. It is 1-800.
All right, got it.
800-342-8011.
And what's it called again?
It's the Florida Bar Attorney Referral Service.
Florida Bar Attorney Referral Service. Okay.
And it's free to all the citizens of the state of Florida who don't know a lawyer or having difficulty finding a lawyer. What they do is you call them, you tell them what type of case it is and what geographical area it's located in, and they will give you the names of 3 lawyers. So you may then interview and choose those 3.
Okay.
If you don't like those 3 or they have conflicts, you can do like that lady did and call back.
Do it again. Yeah.
If you do that 2 or 3 times and you're finding a community where, for whatever reason, a large body of lawyers in that community has some type of a conflict, then your remedy is to look to a close geographical area.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I will make sure that Robin puts that on Facebook, the Florida Bar Attorney Referral Service toll-free number, so that if you're listening, you couldn't write it down, and you just want to share it with somebody, it'll be on our Facebook page before we're out of here today, too.
But if you have a case where you're in an accident, injured, contract dispute, or that sort of thing, you may assuredly call our office, and we'll be happy to talk with you. And our office also, if it's in an area that we don't handle, we are also very happy to try to help people get with the right specialist also.
And quickly, what's your number?
Our number is 352-547-4292.
Okay. And we always have John's information on the guest list for WOCA's AM Ocala Live. Thank you, John. It was
Thank you very much.
Good to see you again, by the way.
Yes, it is. Always a pleasure.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
It's time for Farm and Ranch headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Darren Spearman reporting. USDA's Ag Statistics Service reports that the peanut harvest nationwide is about 51% complete last week. 5-year average is 52%. Conditions of the crop nationwide, 4% very poor, 13 poor, 28 fair, 45 good, and 10% excellent. In the Southeast, Georgia showing 65% of the crop dug as of last Friday, harvested at 49%. They're saying cotton and peanut harvest in full swing at all locations. The rain last week gave the buying points a chance to catch up, and they're back at it now.